Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Beth Christensen, who is with the U.S. Forest Service, and we are at the St. Catharine College's garden area, and they're going to be putting in a pollinator garden behind us. We're going to talk a little bit more about that because it's actually your relation with somebody at St. Catharine College that kind of made this possible, too. We're going to talk a little bit about that, too. And it's with the berry farming program that you're going to be working with the students. So there's a lot to talk about here for the pollinator garden. Let's start out, what is a pollinator garden?
So a pollinator garden is a space or an area that has been designated to grow native plants that can attract pollinators, such as bees or butterflies, bats, any type of pollinator that would come to the area where they have the habitat that they normally might not have around.
So the idea of the garden is to actually attract these insects that a lot of other people try to get rid of, right?
That's right. And also, so, you think of the monarch butterfly and through their, through their journey down to Mexico and then back up, providing a space for them to come and lay their eggs and just enjoy the habitat for a little while as they make their way. So, but yeah, definitely trying to give a space to those creatures that people are trying to get rid of.
Now, we are actually, as I said, at the St. Catharine College garden area, and they have a garden that they have planted. So these pollinators, the ones that we're trying to attract, are the ones that will actually help make this garden grow better, right?
That's right. And so these are the pollinators that are going to help move pollen from plant to plant and help with food and vegetable production, or just flower production of other, sometimes they have ornamental flowers that they might want to grow, but just providing that pollination to other species.
Now, as you can see behind us is the actual garden. How big of a pollinator garden do you need in order to kind of pollinate a certain area? Is there a size
There's not a size. You can make it whatever you feel like making it. You can make it 5 by 5. You can make it, this one's going to be 70 by 50, or 70 by 150, I'm sorry. But you can make it 3 by 3, whatever you have space for in where you live.
Okay, so tell us, how did you come up with the different greenery that you're going to actually have in the garden?
So I work with Drop Seed Nursery a lot. We partner together and we kind of come up with a species list that might work for different types of Kentucky or different areas in Kentucky. And this seed was all collected from the Daniel Boone National Forest, and then she raises the seed and then we get the plants from her. So it's all local native seed from Kentucky, and just partnering with her, she kind of helps us come up with a species mix.
So what are some of the species that will be here?
So we have big blue stem, we have false indigo, we have purple coneflower, we have Joe Pye weed, Asclepias, which is the milkweed, the common milkweed, which is what the monarch butterfly prefers. So we probably have about 15 different species that we're going to be planting today.
Now, I know we talked a little bit about the monarch butterfly, and this is actually going to be a way station for the butterfly, correct? It's an official one.
Right. So it's going to be, after we plant today, it's going to be a certified monarch way station. And so they're registered across the country, and you can Google it on the internet and find where the closest certified monarch way station is to you, or you could plant one yourself and register it yourself.
Now, when you say it's registered and certified and going, obviously the butterflies aren't going online to find these things. How do they know where to go?
Well, it's just, being drawn in by the plant species. So when they find a patch of milkweed and they're like, oh, this is my patch of milkweed. Okay, let's be here for a little while. So really, it just is species dependent.
Yeah, so it's like a vacation spot that we keep going back to,
Yeah,
right?
That's right, yep.
Now, we talked about a little bit that it's a relative of yours that kind of connected you with St. Catharine College and how this all came about. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's a grant that's going to make this possible, right?
Right. So Carrie Christensen is my sister-in-law, and so we were talking one day about me having this money and wanting to get this project done, but not really knowing who the people were who could help me do this project. And so she said that she had people, but they didn't have the other part of the project. And so we kind of were like, oh, well, why don't we work together? So that's what we decided to do. And, she put me in contact with the right people, and we've kind of made it work and coordinated schedules, and here we are.
Great, and it's at St. Catharine College. They're going to have a monarch way station as well as this pollinator garden that will I know it's on St. Catherine's, but will this benefit the area as well?
Yeah, so all the surrounding homes, all the, if people have gardens in their backyard that are close to this property, it's going to draw the pollinators in, and they're going to go back out to the other properties where they have plants that they can, that they'll go pollinate. Yeah.
They'll spread it around.
So it not only benefits the insect species or the bird species, but it also benefits the people in the area, and ultimately some of these vegetables might end up on your dinner table. So
and it'll be pretty with all those butterflies too. Now, how long will it take before this garden is fully functional?
So we talk about sleeping and creeping. So this year, we've these plants have been overwintered in the greenhouse, and so it'll probably take another, this growing season, and then by next growing season they should be flowering and up and running. But it'll probably take a little time just for them to get established.
So give St. Catherine about a year, and then we'll have all these different insects coming right here into central Kentucky to help pollinate our area.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm here with Dr. Sean Lucas, who is with St. Catharine College in the berry farming program, and members of his organic crop production class are actually going to take part in planting this pollinator garden, right?
That's correct.
So tell us a little about the class that you have for the organic crop production.
Well, it's a class that is geared towards getting students to understand the elements of how to produce crops ecologically, working with the ecosystem, working with the environment, and by what we recognize as organic production standards as dictated by the National Organic Program.
And so this pollinator garden will help, because I know you already have some gardens out here. Are they part of your class as well?
Yes, well, this class and another class of mine, Introduction to Agroecology, have both been out here working on some vegetable production beds over here. We eventually hope to get some of that produce into our dining services. But these beds, the pollinator attractors will help by doing what their name implies, bringing in pollinators, which will ultimately benefit our crops as far as pollination. Now, the stuff we have out here now is mostly leafy vegetables, so pollinators aren't as crucial now, but when we have things like tomatoes or peppers or other flowering plants, it'll be pretty nice to have these established.
So for pollinators, when we talk about a pollinator garden, the ones that they had mentioned, the butterflies and the birds and the bees and stuff of that nature, are they only for like flowering plants, or are they for leafy plants, or what kind of crops do benefit from the pollinators?
Well, generally, pollinators, their goal is to pollinate flowering plants, and that flowering plant, once it's pollinated, then produces the fruit. Okay. So on things that produce fruits, again, like peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, pollinators are pretty critical, and without them, you wouldn't have the produce that we want. Things like spinach or things like lettuce, where you actually want to harvest them before they go to flower, before they bolt, so to speak, the pollinators are not as critical. But we want to also encourage a healthy natural ecosystem on our farm, because that is what it means. Part of that is working with the environment, working with the ecosystem.
I know your classes were involved in kind of picking out some of the vegetables that you have out here. How do they determine what ones are the best ones to plant on the garden out here?
Well, we're trying to plant things that are seasonally appropriate. So, for example, right now we have spinach, kale, radishes, some salad mix, a couple of different varieties of lettuce. All those are things that are frost hardy. We'll harvest them by the end of May, early June, and so that was kind of our thought process coming into this first real year that we've had the farm. We've only had the farm we got the land last year. This is our first year of actually doing something. Well, we grew hemp last year, which was really interesting, but this is our first year of actually trying to grow some horticultural crops.
And again, the students are the ones that are getting involved in this. So this was through a grant with the U.S. Forestry Service, right?
That's correct.
To make this possible.
Yes, Beth Christensen with the Forest Service arranged this with St. Catharine College, and we're really appreciative of their efforts and their time out here working with our students.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.